Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Eternal Grind here at Numot Gaming with me, Keith the Tristero Watabayashi. It's been a couple weeks, I apologize for that. We had technical difficulties and then it was Thanksgiving, so life just gets in the way of gaming, which it should never do, but always does. But today, we're back, and it's late in the season, and we're going to be battling with some Xenan. Similar to the Life Force deck I played in a different video, this one is taken directly from Sir Rhino's World Championship deck. This is a deck, or a concept for a deck that a lot of people have messed around with for a while, and I thought it was really great that Sir Rhino took it into a big tournament to really try it out. But the basic idea is Xenan has a really strong mid-range kind of late-game finishing engine with Waystone Infuser, Mystic Ascendant, and Champion of Mystery. The idea with this strategy is to use your really big 1-for-1s, try to get some 2-for-1s with maybe like an Iron, Sandstorm Titan is great, obviously, and then, Stray into Shadow can do a lot of work. And you want to get to a place where Waystone Infuser, make sure you don't flood, at least not flood too badly, and then Champion of Mystery or Mystic can end the game. Basically, Waystone Infuser, I'm probably going to do that all video, so I apologize, and Mystic Ascendant are an excellent pair together. They just generate so much card advantage and so much value, and Mystic Ascendant itself can finish the game by attacking. But on top of that, you have Champion of Mystery, which is a great unit to have when you're playing a lot of power and you need something to do with that. Xenan has some mana sinks, but they don't have things like Seeroth or Great Parliament, some of the combo cards, or even like Flame Blast, like Fire. But Champion of Mystery is a great way to take all that influence you've made and close out the game quickly. So these three are really strong finishers, and they work really well together. So the idea is to set them up as best as possible. And we do that with just straight Xenan value cards. Again, Iron, Sandstorm Titan, Varus Favor, maybe the best spell in the game. I don't know. After Harsh Rule, it's so good. Steward of the Past, Annihilate. And then on my own personal addition to this deck, I put in the Beckoning Lumen, so I have a little more mid-game. So it's not all just 4, 4, and 4, and also a little extra card advantage. You actually do gain a decent amount of life with this deck between Temple Scribe, Varus Favor, and Iron. Becky could, by the way, Becky's the nickname for Beckoning Lumen, so I'll probably say that all video as well. Basically, can give you an extra threat, an extra blocker, drain a little bit of value, and a little bit of card draw. So it's not like great or super powerful, but it has some nice synergies, and I think is a good role player. So you're not depending on Sandstorm Titan to be your only thing at 4, or Steward of the Past, which, these cards are fantastic, and sometimes you play one of them on turn 4 and the game is over. Other times you really don't want to expose them early, especially Steward of the Past, because the game text is so valuable. So having kind of someone you can play on turn 4 that you have no drawback to play on turn 4 and has upside as the game goes on is great. Now, when I say downside, I mean, of course, Sandstorm Titan and Steward of the Past are fantastic on 4. But again, if you have an opponent who's trying to play around that, or they're holding their Vanquishes, or they're holding their Revenge units, they can play around them. And these are units that are just so much better when they really, really affect the opponent. So Beckoning Lumen gives you another play that also has relevance late game, and is just kind of good in its own. Some of the problems with this deck, in fact, the number one problem with Xenan is just it runs out of cards. It doesn't have natural card draw, except for Ancient Lore, which is really bad. So the main thing is you have to really manage what you play when and how you trade in 1-for-1. This deck is kind of a classic control deck in some ways, in that you're trading 1-for-1 all game, and then you turn the corner with some extra card advantage, which in this case would be like Waystone Infuser specifically, or Mystic Ascendant. So that's how we play this. I love control decks. I like old school control decks. So this is a good version of that. So we're going to go ahead and battle. Control in Eternal is interesting because, all of us who come from other card games, you think of control, you always think of spell-based control. It's always about playing powerful spells, or playing an optimum number of powerful spells. What happened there? I guess our opponent had a really bad mulligan. I'm going to count it. I am counting it. This is ladder, and I'm counting that win. Hold it against me if you will. But, the thing is, when you are thinking about if a deck is good or not on ladder, right? I think it is important to give yourself credit for free wins because you're going to have so many frustrating losses, so many bad top decks, so many good top decks by your opponent, bad opening hands. This hand on the play is not great. We need one more shadow, but we're going to try it because it has 4 mana. So even though it's kind of like not like that win isn't an earned win, so you don't really know if the deck won that many games, but it's important to, I think, mentally and also emotionally when you're grinding a ladder to take into account that you do get free wins. Like, as much as all the bad luck hits you and as much as you go on those, those losing streaks that are just so frustrating and really make you want to like quit playing, at least for like a week or something. It can also go the other way where, every 10 games you get a free concede. It's important to note those wins because I think, again, what people call ladder stress or ladder fatigue is a real thing. And so much of what happens with ladder fatigue and ladder stress is people think that every win is hard earned and every loss is like unfair. And giving yourself credit for the wins that were totally one-sided or, totally luck-based or whatever, or nothing to do with, I think is important to not get burnt out on ladder play. So that's why I'm counting that. So here we are. This is a good example of where playing Sandstorm Titan on 4 seems great, but can leave you really vulnerable because we're playing against Armory, and it's very likely they have a Slay or a Vanquish or even a Harsh Rule coming up. And I do need Sandstorm Titan to combat something like an Ikaria or just to combat a Relic Weapon. So even though I could slam Titan now, and if they can't deal with it, well, maybe I get a nice hit in for 5 before we get a Harsh Rule or something. This is where if I had a Becky, I could easily put the 5 attack threat down and draw an extra card. So because this deck is so bad at running out of cards, I mean, you can see we already have only 2 playables on our own before we get to turn 6. I think the correct play here is to play Temple Scribe and set up for a longer game. Because we're not going to rush any deck down. We're especially not going to rush down Armory that has so much removal. So that's an example of where you kind of want to hold your Titan. Because it's so powerful, and you need your powerful cards to be powerful. However, that works out very well for us. Again, it's too bad it's not Becky. But it's okay. And if we get to 6 or something like that, what we can do is hold up Banish, which I like a lot here. So we're going to draw. Well, I would hold up Banish, but I have to kill this, unfortunately. And you can see now, if our opponent comes at us with a Harsh Rule, we have plenty of good characters left to play. So we're not out of gas. There you go. So our opponent still hasn't played any hard removal, which really leads me to believe that they're holding a Slay or a Vanquish. I feel like they probably wouldn't have played the Maiden planning to play a Harsh Rule if they had some spot removal, or especially if they had Relic Weapons. So the issue here is, do we think our opponent's going to do Tavrod or not? Because we could just play nothing, and we can hold up Iron and just play Iron at the end of our opponent's turn. And then they play a Tavrod, and then we play Champion into a Tavrod. That doesn't seem great if they have removal. I think the best thing to do is to play Sandstorm Titan now, because if they play a Tavrod, then we can drop the Champion or even Stray into Shadow. Ugh, no, that's not good. It's okay. I guess we don't really have a good answer to Tavrod right now, so we're just going to go with our most powerful play, which is the Champion. This gives our opponent spot removal a lot of value, but at least if we get to 7 power, we can play 2 spells next turn, and if they do play a spot removal here, they don't play a Tavrod, and that gives us an extra draw to find an answer. The best thing we could draw right now would probably be Waystone Infuser, or like a Death Strike. To be fair, this deck doesn't have great ways to deal with Tavrod because it only runs the 2 Death Strikes. And we don't have any Varus favors right now. Interesting. Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. Mystic Ascendant's pretty good. So our opponent definitely doesn't have any spot removal. So we're going to go ahead and play Titan. I feel like they do have... Oh, they can't play a Tavrod yet. Well, now they can play a Tavrod. But at least if they do, we can hold up Iron. And if they attack, then we can go ahead and deal with that. I guess we could just play a Mystic Ascendant. That's really bad, though, if they have spot removal. I guess it's bad either way. So we'll just get the value and draw a card. Varus Favor's not bad. So what do we... I mean, we're afraid of like a Slay or a Slave of Vanquish, but we can't really deal with that right now anyway. Yeah, definitely happy to make this trade here. Miss. Oh, no, they hit a Minotaur. Probably another Tavrod. Okay, so they ditched a Slay and a Throne Warden. That's not bad for us. We're going to go ahead and double block here. This actually works out pretty well if our opponent didn't hit a weapon. If they hit a weapon, like if they hit like a Daisho, then they would just clear our board. But then I guess we trade and that's a 2 for 2 and that's fine. Ooh, a torch. A rune hammer. Dang it. Like I said, relic weapon's pretty bad for us. That's actually pretty good. Unfortunately, I mean, I could play Becky and draw a card, or I could just hold the Iron back. 4, 7, 8, 9. Can't do everything I want. It's the end of my turn. I guess we could draw a card now and go to 8, and that puts us closer to using Iron. I mean, the other thing we can do is just play Becky and hold up the Iron. That doesn't seem too bad either. And then Iron. And then we could swing with Iron and try to draw a card that way. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we play the Varus Favor next turn. No, I think we'll draw now. We really might have to activate Iron here, so... I'm gonna go ahead and just get the card draw now. Try to trade for the Rune Hammer. And if we take 10, we take 10. We're at 40. I mean, we gained a bunch of life with the first one. Another Tavrod. Sure. So another Varus Favor would be pretty good. Actually, really good. Oh, they didn't attack. That's not exactly good. I guess we attack and we play the Stray into Shadow, and then we use Iron to break that. Not great, but also not terrible. This way they don't get to attack with the Tavrod. So right now the plan is to take the 10 in the face. Or not. That's not bad. I really would like to activate Iron. I don't think, though, I have a way. I guess I could make you a 9/9. That's not great. And you're a 10/10. Ugh. 10 attack is very annoying. I guess if we draw another removal spell, like if we draw another removal spell and get rid of this, then we're in pretty good shape. Otherwise, we're not. But we're going to try. So we're going to play Iron, and then on our turn, we could annihilate and either use Iron or draw a removal spell. Alright, well, that's not nothing. Can't activate Iron because I have to annihilate this, so I can try to get through here. Yeah, that works. That works pretty good. Let's annihilate that. And we will swing. And we're going to hold this because we really want our opponent to attack before we blow up the weapon. And this way, they cannot attack again, unless they play a die show. Uh-oh, that's not good. That's not fantastic for us. And this is where this deck, you can see it runs out of cards. But, you know, we're in this game because our cards are so powerful. Like, we're actually doing a pretty good job getting value here. And our opponent is a little choked on mana, so they're having to play like one spell a turn, which is not really where Armory wants to be. Let's hit for 4. And then we're going to go ahead and activate Iron while we can. Harsh Rule is pretty bad, but we've already faced down 2, and if they play Harsh Rule, they're not going to play anything else. So we can go ahead and Temple Scribe and try to draw into something. That's not a problem. I'm surprised he didn't get an Ikaria. You'd think that would be the play. Is there a possibility of drawing a removal spell and being able to play it? I don't think so. Oh, I shouldn't have played that power because now I can't play one with her. That's okay. We're going to swing with everything because they have to block the champion. Otherwise, they're dead. Three, 4. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to be really mad if that's a power card. Oh, thank God. See, I knew it all along. It's not misplays. It's just thinking ahead. Yeah, I really don't want to draw power next turn, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. And say go. I mean, you can't play around the 3rd Harsh Rule. Alright, now we are 2-0. But getting back to the earlier point, when people think of control decks, right, you always want to hit that critical mass of spells as opposed to playing like a tempo game with units or ramping or something. But the thing about Eternal is the permanents are so much better than the spells. Any control deck really has to start with your units. I mean, I have, and many other people have tried to play control decks that are from the hand, you know, really spell heavy, and they simply do not work. I mean, there is nothing in the game that gets more value than a Tavrod, than a Sandstorm Titan, than an Ikaria, than a Mystic Ascendant, than a Heart of the Vault, you know, or a Champion of Fury, you know, I mean, Rakano Outlaw. I mean, part of that, you know, these things have like Warcry and other things that make them so much better. I mean, all of those cards I've named kind of have built-in spells or other things about them. It's not just units and stats. So any control deck in Eternal really has to think about what units it's going to play. And that's why the best control deck, Chalice, is all unit-based. Because this game, they really want you to have units on the board and have to use units. So if you want to play a control deck, a pure control deck, you have to play a unit-heavy deck that's centered around control. That's the only way you're going to have any kind of decent success rate. And I have learned that the hard way. But this deck is a pure control deck. It really is, because your units are slow, and they're also very powerful. And you only win the game if you get maximum value out of your units, which is, you know, kind of the same as trying to get maximum value out of your spells. But in this game, it's units, not spells. So this is a really good draw for this matchup. Yeah, this is like kind of where we want to be here. All we need to do is draw Varro's Favor, and we're in really good shape. And it looks like our opponent's having a little trouble finding removal. But they are finding Recursion, which is slightly annoying. But this is where Sandstorm Titan... Oh my god. We could see the Queen, which means you can only block you. So we will play Titan. I think the second Iron is going to be lights out. I don't even think I need the Stray into Shadow. Titan itself is pretty lights out in this. Yeah, that was about as good a draw as we could get against Queen. Minus a Varro's Favor. But we didn't even need it. We had Temple Scribe, which is kind of better than Varro's Favor in that case. Same thing. Trades, gain life, draw a card. See, in that game right there, you're playing like a control deck. You're playing units, but I never attacked once, right? It was all about controlling my opponent's offense. This is what a control deck does. This is, man, we keep going first. You gotta love that. This hand is kind of keepable. It has good mana. Even though it only has one, we will get to play what we want to play, and we are going first, so we don't lose that much tempo. If we mulligan, what's a better hand? I guess if this was a power, it'd be a better hand, but we're gonna keep it. Having either Varro's Favor or even possibly Iron if we draw power is pretty good for us. So that's not a great draw, but it's not an awful draw. So now we're going to have Iron on 4 or possibly one of our 4-drops. But I like having 3 4-drops and, you know, another way to draw power. Yeah, that's a pretty good draw. I will take it. And we are going to absolutely break this Aegis. Ooh, wait a minute. Let me think about this. This is probably going to be Huru Flyers, which means they're going to have like Silverwing Rider. However, we do have double Sandstorm Titan, which seems pretty good to me. And I do want to play a 4-drop next turn, so we're going to go ahead. But that could come back to haunt us if our opponent plays like a bunch of Silverwing Riders and like a bunch of Vanquishes. But that's a pretty mana-intensive plan, right? Like they have to play a 4-drop and then play a 2-drop spell. So it doesn't look like we're going to have a problem controlling this game at the moment. But that makes me think, what is the fire for? It's like that weird armory deck? No. I don't know what this is. We're just going to run out of Titan. There's no Annihilate, there's no Banish from these colors, so let's see what our opponent comes up with. Interesting, they're playing Inspire. Not a great card anymore. Used to be amazing, though. Used to be amazing. And our opponent sure is inspired this game. I'm not going to play anything else next turn, unless it's a Temple Scribe. It's very possible our opponent is setting up for a Harsh Rule, and I really don't want to get 2 for 1. If this is some kind of control mirror, I'd rather force their premium removals to not be great. Sure. I don't know what this deck is. I don't recognize this play pattern. So, what's the best thing to do? Do I try to trade with Iron and go wide? What's a good draw here? A good draw, I guess, would be like Banish. I guess if we draw a Becky, like a Beckoning Lumen, then we do want the Iron down, so our opponent trades. And I guess I'm fine trading as well, because then we hit our opponent for 5, which is pretty good. And we're pretty far away from activating Iron, so it's not like I need to hold her for that, or hold him. I always think Ion's a female. And again, I don't want to get 2 for 1. And next turn, I can just play Champion of Mystery if I want, as a threatening card. Or I guess we could play Sandstorm Titan now. And if our opponent goes for the Harsh Rule, that makes it a little easier to try to stick a Champion later. No, we'll play a Steward instead. That's fine. This way, we have a 2-turn lethal, which should probably force a Harsh Rule, and we don't lose a second copy of Titan, which could be our best unit in this matchup. That's very helpful. I would like to see what's in their hand. Ooh, okay, let's get rid of that. Oh my god, man. Sometimes Varro's Favor just feels so unfair. So our opponent did not Harsh Rule. In fact, they did absolutely nothing. That leads me to believe they do not have it, which makes me sort of want to expand out, because then they have to kill at least 2 of our units. I guess if we play another Titan and then they Harsh Rule, we can at least play Champion. But they have 1 unit and then a bunch of other cards. Maybe they're flooded. It's very possible they're flooded. We're going to go ahead and play a Titan. We're going to try to get the lethal next turn. I feel like our opponent would have played the Harsh Rule if they had it, since Ikaria is their only unit, and why wouldn't you want a clean board going into 7? Huh. I'm going to assume they just drew that. I mean, that seems like a really bad way to wait. But we're going to keep putting the pressure on. Yeah, our opponent might be just a little flooded here. Ah, okay. No problem. All right. I got it. I got it. Could play an Iron. No, we'll play a Champion. Champion's immune to Torch and Vanquish. So, in theory, our opponent has to trade. Yep. Yeah, I think our opponent might be flooded. Okay, I'm going to assume that's an Icaria. Or another Sword of the Sky King. Could also be another Sword of the Sky King. I don't. Well, I guess if we hit a another power off of this, that's pretty good. The other thing we can do is we can just take a hit, play Iron at the end of the turn, and draw a card. But this is kind of like drawing a card, and it could be drawing 2 cards. So I guess we have to start the game over here because we're not going to be able to kill our opponent as quickly as we'd like. So we need to start trying to play more of a control game since we're a little tight on mana. So it wasn't Icaria. Okay. Death Strike is not... Oh, man. That's a bummer. That's a real bummer. Yeah, they're not making this easy for me. Yeah, I guess playing that Titan was a mistake. If we had held that down. Because we can't go real wide here since we're stuck playing 1 spell a turn, and now we're behind an Icaria, which is pretty bad for us. Yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to play Ian and then Becky and try to draw something. I mean, we're pretty close, but also very far away. I mean, if our opponent plays a second Sword of the Sky King, that's going to be really, really bad. And our opponent was flooded. I'm going to assume they top decked the Harsh Rule, or either that or they were playing some very risky next level mind games. Yeah, another Titan would be pretty good here. That has to be a weapon. And it's a little unfortunate that we're stuck on 6, and being forced to play 1 power a turn is pretty bad. I don't think we can... I guess we could try to draw Banish? Question mark? We know we're drawing something. Yeah, that's fine. Man, Banish would be pretty sick here. That would make that... that would make the Runehammer look pretty silly. Still gotta deal with that Icaria, though. 19. Yeah, not a whole lot we can do here. Let's just go for the maximum. Huh? Yeah, I guess I should have played the second Steward. I mean, I bet on my opponent not having the Harsh Rule. It still feels like they top decked it. Banish is pretty good here. Unfortunately, we have to attack, which kind of stinks. Because otherwise we will die to Icaria. Yeah, not drawing some mana was kind of tough too, because you could have been a little more creative. We could have gone a little wider and maybe snuck in that 5 damage, but playing 1 unit a turn behind Icaria is pretty bad, so oh well. I guess we could have won that game if we played a little more conservative that turn, since our opponent never did come out with any hard removal. But you can't play around everything. So I played around. I figured our opponent was playing like they did not have a Harsh Rule, so I was playing around spot removal or another weapon, so that way we had 3 attackers and any 2 of them getting through was lethal. But our opponent did have the Harsh Rule. So who was that? That was G. Quilla. Well, if I remember that name, I'll remember that person plays very risky with their Harsh Rules. This one is a mulligan. I mean, we did keep a 1 sigil hand, so I guess that's why we were a little choked, but we had plenty of game. I mean, it worked out. That was a close game. Our opponent definitely took some greedy lines of play, but paid off for them. I think getting Ikaria was also kind of a mistake. I mean, you saw that even though it worked out, I mean, we had a lot of draws, and I mean, we easily could have gone a little wider, gone a little bigger. I mean, if we hit another champion of mystery, we could have attacked. You know, there were a lot of ways we could have forced Ikaria to block and die, and then our opponent really only got like the one +5/+5. But we couldn't deal with it, so our opponent went for the high risk, high reward play. I'm not even sure that honestly was the high reward play. I kind of think something like another relic weapon would have been a lot better. So this deck, I think, is the party deck, the Combray party deck. Well, we're definitely just gonna, we have Annihilate for Titan. We're just gonna kill Seraph. I don't want to give our opponent a chance to play Protect or something else of that nature, and we're definitely just gonna play Infuser next turn. So might as well play it now. And there's not going to be a better target to hold Banish for, since we have Annihilate. If we didn't have Annihilate, I would have held it for like something like Titan. Well, luckily, there's more where that came from. Nope. So this is not a bad spot for this deck to be in. We have removal for any big threats. We have Infuser down. Our opponent's going a little slow. Now we just got to wait and see what the draws bring us. That's not a very good one. We are going to play this. We really might need to play 2 spells in a turn. I can't really attack yet, so we're just going to pass. I'm probably going to annihilate this Valkyrie pretty soon. Oh, man. And now we really want to draw Stray into Shadow. Titan's not bad. We will go ahead. If it's the deck I think it is, they don't play Harsh Rule. They play Vanquish. And a whole lot of silences, apparently. Sure. I'm just going to kill one of you while I'm here. But now we can start attacking with the Titan if they don't have a removal spell, which I'm thinking they don't, since they played Desert Marshal. It's a lot of Seraphs. Whew, yeah, we really want to try to get to that Stray into Shadow, or get to a Stray into Shadow. Let's go ahead and swing with you. I don't think our opponent would block. That'd be pretty greedy of them. This one we're going to hold up simply because we might hit one of our Mystic Ascendants. Yeah, we're going to respond to that and kill you. And let's see, I think we're going to go ahead and kill one of you two. We're getting down to it where we got to do something. Aww. Well, at least that would have made our Stray in the Shadow very good. This is not a good draw. We're a bit flooded here. Well, I mean, we're flooded because we got both our infusers silenced. we would not be this flooded. Ooh, that's actually going to come in handy here, because I definitely want you to attack. Okay, okay. And then we're going to try to kill one of these Seraphs. Seems good. Oh my god. Well, second Obelisk is a little hard to handle. Yeah, well, we're definitely killing one. Oh, I guess we could kill you. Yeah, that's fine. That does make them significantly smaller. Yeah, that worked out. It's a nice 3-for-1 on that. Though these Seraphs are going to become a problem, but maybe not. Maybe not. Thing is, our opponent doesn't really have too many bad draws here. but then again, neither do we. 6. Okay, let's get in there. Okay, Champion of Mystery. Show us your worth. This is interesting because now our opponent has to really choose. Okay. Another blocker would be really good here. Or Stray into Shadow would also be pretty dang fantastic. I think we are going to block one. I don't really want to take that damage. And all we lose is a Titan, which is not a big deal. Because it's not really doing anything. Iron is pretty good. Pretty good. Another blocker. Annihilate, also pretty good. Okay. Okay. Do we get... No, we don't get power. I really don't want our opponent to come at me to be able to top deck a second stand together. So we're going to do that. And we're going to say go. Now I think we win. Our opponent's going to try to get through, but it's not going to matter. We have too many blockers. We don't even need the Iron, actually. We could just block these 3. Oh, no, that would be 13. No, I guess we do need the Iron. Let's block you and block 1, 2, 3. Boom. Turns out the third waste. No one expects the third Waystone Infuser. Champion of Mystery. Living up to his name. That's definitely what a champion should do. It should win you the game, and win you the game in style. That game is a good example of being patient with your removal, or rather, not patient, but choosing the right targets. I almost punted that game by not banishing on the Initiate. That was pretty sick. I'm gonna give myself, I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that play. I mean, it's the obvious play, but sometimes, especially when you're recording video, it's easy to miss the obvious play. So I'm glad I did, and that was definitely the turning point. I mean, also the Champion of Mystery, but you know. To win games of Eternal, a lot of things have to go right. So, let's go ahead and do one of the best plays you could do in Eternal. Vara's favorite, Oni Ronin. What? That's okay. I'm fine trading for that. I mean, our units are big enough that the whatever work our opponent gets on this isn't going to be devastating. Yeah, that's a little annoying. Ow. We're going to go ahead and pass. We're going to take these hits. If our opponent, like... Okay, that's fine. That's good. That's exactly what we want to see. That's perfect. If our opponent has a torch, then this play is really bad. If they don't, this play is really good. Because what we want to do is you want to play Iron at the end of the turn so we can attack and kill the Sword of Ikaria. And then with our 4 mana, we're going to play Temple Scribe and Annihilate. And take board advantage. Yeah, it looks like we're good. Boom. And then we're going to draw... Ooh, that's pretty good too. And then we're going to annihilate you. And say go. What you got? And hopefully this Vara's Choice or this other annihilate will deal with some Warcry units. Yeah, like that's fine. That looks like a Vara's Choice candidate. So we're going to go ahead and be aggressive with our removal. We have plenty of cards like, this is a hand where you can safely play out all your really effective cards because our opponent only has 1 card in hand, and then at the end of it, we're left with a Waystone Infuser and a Temple Scribe, which are both fine plays on an empty board. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And we're going to do this. And we're going to swing. And leave our opponent with a 1/1 and 1 unknown in their hand with a pretty good follow-up turn. We can go Temple Scribe, second Iron. We can just go ahead and play Waystone. Oh, we got the Warcry on that? Oh yeah, it was a 5/5. Duh. Let's see. You don't have Quick Draw. Could just Varus favor you and hold up Iron. That also seems pretty good. And double block here. Yeah, that seems fine. I don't want you to get a Warcry. And we will say go. I mean, our opponent's going to get one Warcry. I don't want them to get the second Warcry off the Oni Ronin. Whoa, that's not very nice. Yeah, we'll just jump. Looks like the race is on here. Since our opponent has no cards in hand. Drawn sigils from the deck, huh? Yeah, I don't know about that. Could play you or could play you. I kind of have to play you because I need a chump blocker. So I guess we'll do this. And we'll wait on playing the Infuser. Sure. And we'll hit for 6. I mean, now we just need to draw a Banish, basically. I'm fine with that. Banish, Death Strike. These are all good cards, obviously. I guess any removal. Or even a big unit that could trade, like even a Titan. And then we could just hold back. Yeah, that's too bad. Ooh, this is kind of a bad... Oh my god, this is not good at all. I think we're going to have to take that 8 hit next turn. Sure. Okay, so next turn we're actually going to draw something. So we're going to hit for 2. I guess we could hold back both in case he has a removal spell. Yeah, that Hammer of Might was pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. And so was the Scepter. Oh my god. Well, that's a nightmare scenario. I guess we block in case they have a Finest Hour. Yeah, it looks like it. If it was a Torch, they certainly would have played it. Well, the wheels really came off. I mean, we could have played that a little differently and maybe got the Infuser down earlier to try to avoid Flood, but, you know, I mean, our opponent had no cards in hand, and then, you know, they top deck out of the situation, which was a good one for us, but being able to pile on one giant unit and we didn't draw any more removal was sort of the end of it. So we could have played the Infuser early, but then our opponent would have got a few more hits in with their guys, which could have been bad. I think I'm happy with the way that played out. At least I'm happy with my play. All we needed was like one more removal spell or some other way to get card advantage. And also really our opponent having the Torch for the Iron was kind of a thing. But I never feel... this hand's pretty awkward. It's really slow, so I'm going to mulligan. I'm always happy when you're in a situation where you really force your opponent to top deck. And there's a difference between being in a situation where you are putting yourself in a position where you lose to a top deck, which is not what you want to do if you can avoid it. And then there's putting yourself in your situation where your opponent has to top deck to come back, because that means that even if they do top deck, okay, you're still ahead, or you still can get that tempo back. So I think we put our opponent in a position where they had to string together a couple of good draws, actually multiple draws, and they did. And so I never feel that bad about that. There might have been a way to play it a little slower and build the card advantage engine and build towards a late game. So our opponent has no units in their hand, but looks like they're playing Chalice. I guess we'll just play Titan. Oh god, it's just gonna get killed. But our hand is terrible. Like, this hand is good in the long run. I guess we just play nothing. I mean, how good is our late game compared to their late game? We have no ways to draw cards. And I think forcing our opponent to either play card draw spells or removal on their turn is a thing, but this is a pretty bad hand for Chalice. So we could have tried to build that late game engine, which, as it turned out, would have been really good since we flooded at the end there. All those those 3 power we drew in a row, we could have got through that a little bit faster and got that Stray into Shadow, which could have given us an opportunity to trade with the champion. But then we kill. But then we're a couple turns behind, right? Like, we play the Infuser. We can't really block. Our opponent gets a little more Warcry. So maybe we see a couple extra cards, but I think being a little slower to deal with our opponent's threats is also pretty bad. So I don't think we had a real good choice there. Now, our opponent did have a Valkyrie, so they could have silenced the Infuser, which maybe would have been fine, because then the Ion would have not been silenced. Or no, Ion was torched. I think either way, and one of the great things I love about this deck and this style of deck is there's a lot of ways we could have played our game with many different outcomes, and I think you can't really say one was better than the other. I mean, in hindsight, if you want, you could just get salty about it and say, well, we fought our opponent down, they top decked, and then we flooded. I mean, that is one way to look at the game. Like, we put our opponent in a position where they could only win if they got a few good draws together, which they did, and then we drew really bad. So it just wasn't meant to be. But that does happen. Again, that happens with this deck. Like, this deck has a serious problem with running out of cards. That's like the #1 problem. Looks like we got another disconnect here or something. I'm going to count it. Maybe they'll be back, though. Since our opponent hasn't died already, I'm going to assume that they're reconnecting. They'll be back in this game. I feel like I've played this guy a few times, so I don't know him to be a lever or her to be a lever. Yeah, it looks like we're getting another free win. We're gonna count it, but we'll play some extra games after this. Well, speaking of luck, our terrible draw is gonna beat our opponent's leaving. I think we would have lost too. I don't really think this draw could beat a Chalice. Like any kind of decent Chalice draw, I don't think this deck could. I don't think that draw could beat, since we don't have enough card advantage going on, and Banish is only so against them. Like, and you saw the way we draw. We drew pretty much only power, which is fine because we needed power. But if our opponent's playing out, like if they vanquish the Titan, and then they just go, Wisdom, Chalice, Healer, draw, like, we're not going to win that game. It's possible the correct way to build this deck is to really go deep on your card value things. So, like, maybe keep 3 champions and just go 4 Waystone, 4 Mystic, and 4 Becky. I do like Becky in this deck. I haven't been disappointed. She hasn't done too much so far this video, but I'm not opposed to using her. And look at that. Something to do on turn 4. Kind of like to draw power, though. Well, that's not real good. Let's see what our opponent has here. I want them to play a Wisdom. Oh, we don't have the double shadow. That's so unfortunate for us. So what are we going to run into next turn? No, we're going to wait. Because we can't play any power this turn, so we'll wait and do it next turn. Oh, interesting. Okay. Kind of want to play a Stray into Shadow here. So if I play Iron next turn and attack, then there's a good chance we get hit with a Haunting Scream, and we don't have any way to deal with that. Do we even care, though? I don't think so. Since we can Stray into Shadow at like any time. And we will have a blocker here. Maybe our opponent... Well, okay, let's see if they have it, first of all. Okay, it doesn't look like they do. So we're going to play the Waystone Infuser. Nope, nothing. And say go and draw. Oh, there it is. I think I'm fine with that. I mean, our board's pretty good, and we're also drawing cards. And, you know, they sacrificed 2 cards to draw 3, but we drew 1. And we have an Infuser going with the Mystic Ascendant. Sure. Okay, let's get some value going of our own. Oh my god, that is not very valuable. Sure. And now we can just play the Stray if we want and keep up our engine and destroy theirs. Aww. That's not very nice. Really want to draw a Titan. That's kind of what we're in the market for. Let's go ahead and do this. And I'll leave up Death Strike. We're going to draw a card anyway. And I am a little afraid of a Haunting Scream now. Would love to get to a Steward of the Past. That'd be pretty good. Sure. Annihilate is so bad versus Felm. One thing about this deck is the removal. I kind of want to change it up a little bit. It's just Annihilate is so efficient when it's good. But you can see how Sir Rhino tech this a little more for Worlds. I mean, 4 Annihilate and 4 Banish is like pretty intense. And you're never going to play more than 2 of each of those in a game, and that's if you do. Okay, what are we seeing here? Oh, no, we're not going to use Iron yet. Four, 5, 6. Yeah, let's draw a card. Okay, there we go. Perfect. And then we'll say go. Wow, we have too many cards in our hand. I think we'll get rid of Annihilate. I think the mana is honestly more relevant. Because, I mean, we're not going to have any targets against these colors. Maybe they play a Steward of the Past. $48. Yeah, Becky's doing some work this game. Ugh. Hate this combo. This combo should not work this way. Oh, I thought he was gonna play Withering Witch. Another one. I think we'll just play Titan and hold up Death Strike. I mean, we also could just play Stray in the Shadow, and that gets rid of 3 Fanatics, but then we lose both of these. And we're drawing some cards here, so I'm not too into doing that. If our opponent had an Annihilate, they definitely would have played it by now. Sure. Let's hope they don't have a backlash. Sure. It's only for the turn, right? Or does he keep it for the turn? Or does he keep it for us? That's pretty interesting. Did not know that. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. Do I get to respond to that? No, I don't, do I? Wow, that's too bad. Very impressive, very impressive. Sure. Well, I was seriously punished for not playing the Stray. Maybe we can deck our opponent. I'll just kill you so I can get the damage in. Alright. Let's take a look here. What do we got? Oh, yeah, we don't want to see that. So far, nothing has charged, and our opponent only has 2 units in hand. So now we are going to use you. And set up for lethal. But more than likely, our opponent has removal since they just drew 6 cards. Three permafrost, eh? 4 permafrost. Okay, then. And a whole lot of power. This Waystone Infuser is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So we know that our opponent has a bunch of power and a Cabal Spy Master. So we are going to end the turn. They've drawn so many cards. Then again, so have we. Okie dokie. It's pretty sweet, though. Our opponent's doing some pretty cool things. Okay, now we're going to go for the blowout. I was going to do the gun thing. Ah! Wait, wouldn't the other one just, like... Oh, I guess he doesn't have any spells he wants to play. Okay, well, let's just Death Strike you. And let's just block you. Let me see here. We could Death Strike and then play Stray in the Shadow and leave our opponent top decking. That seems pretty good. And then these guys can't come back, but he can bring this one back anyway. I could just Death Strike you and swing. That leaves me pretty vulnerable, though. I'm not a big fan of that, so we're going to do this. What is this fast spell our opponent has? I'm very confused. Might be a torch. If it's a torch, that makes Stray into Shadow, like, just horrible. I guess we could swing and try to get a 2-for-1. Because we could swing, we could banish. No, I'm just gonna do this. I don't want this guy coming back. And I really do want to hold up the banish for another Haunting Scream, because that's one way our opponent gets back in this game. And we have Infuser to kind of filter, so we know we're drawing action. And we don't really have too many bad draws right now. Oh, punished. Should have waited a turn. Okay, Temple Scribe is a card. Sandstorm Titan is also a card. Our opponent's really living off the top of their library, though. Didn't exactly expect the Yeti Scout Party to come down. Okay, we're going to go for lethal next turn. We're going to let him draw 2 cards. And we're going to try to kill any blocker that might come up. Boy, that Stray into Shadow would have been good a turn later. Another one. This deck is extremely annoying. Ay, ay, ay. Has to block one of them. Probably the Titan, I would imagine. But Steward of the Past is pretty good here. That's going to make our life a lot easier. I think our opponent drew all 4 Permafrost, too, huh? Yep, they did. That's clearly their main removal, though. So I don't really know what we're afraid of our opponent drawing. And we almost have lethal here if they don't play another blocker. Since we have a banish, and we'll get through for 5. Oh, that is lethal. I take it back. Alright, well that's obviously what they drew. Yes. Woo! Outlasted him. Steward of the Past. It's a real card. Ooh. Got the upgrade. Gotta love it. I wasn't talking so much that game because I was trying to figure out exactly how this game was going to play out. Very strange. The guy's deck was sweet, though. Feels like a good matchup for us, though. Like Vara's Favor and Steward of the Past and Sandstorm Titan all seem pretty good against that. This hand is... I guess since we're going second, we'll keep it. We have the turn 2 Vara's Choice, and we have Banish with our finishers. Although it's not going to be a great draw versus... man. Do we want to play Vara's Favor on 2? Yes, we do. For sure we do. Okay, so our opponent has a torch. Let's take a look. Man, I almost want to run extra Vara's choices. Well, Our removal lines up really well against both of these. I guess we'll get rid of the Champion of Chaos. Since Champion of Chaos we can only remove with Banish or Death Strike, we also have 4 Annihilates for the Impending Doom. And we also have Sandstorm Titan. This is some kind of Stone Scar mid-range, I guess. Okay. I kind of do want to get to 5, but our opponent only had 2 units. No, I guess it's fine. We'll do this. Interesting. No, go ahead. It's all bad for that Impending Doom. I suspect they might take the Varus Favor at this point, just so we, Nope, we're gonna take the Banish. Okay. It's possible we have to deal with the second one of these pretty soon. Let's go ahead and hit our opponent. And then now we have our endgame, so let's see if it's enough. I think so. I feel like if this is just a mid-range Stone Scar deck, like just big Stone Scar stuff, I think we're pretty well suited against that. No problem. Not great, but it's fine. Becky is interesting. Wouldn't mind drawing some life gain. So now it's our opponent's turn to be the controlling deck, but we're getting card advantage. Like we 2-for-1'd our opponent right there, so we're in a little bit better shape than they are when it comes to these things. No Death Strike. Perhaps a blocker. 3 torches, huh? Oh no, well, that's fine. Again, that's good for us. That's a big 2-for-1. We will wait. I do want to get the life gain. Our opponent's at a high enough life total that just running out of Becky isn't really going to do much. But if we wait till we get an Iron or a Temple Scribe or a Varus Favor, that's actually going to be pretty good. Another Impending Doom. Sure. Let's just kill that. So our opponent has another fast spell. Probably an Annihilate, I would think. Could also be a Torch. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. I guess we'll find out right now. But whatever it is, I guess either way it's going to kill Becky, so it's not great. Oh no, it was none of that. Now I'm very curious. Oh yeah, they probably don't get to interact during my turn, huh? That's so weak sauce. You should be able to do that before I draw a card. Not bad, not bad. Another fast spell. Yeesh. Our opponent is really drawing their removal. But again, Becky was a 2-for-1. So this is where, you know, the value of Xenan as opposed to Stone Scar works, because our cards are generating this value. Our opponent is having to do things like they annihilate the Becky. She drew a card, so we're like 2-for-1ing them the whole way, you know? So we're in pretty good shape when it comes to this matchup. I mean, the key thing was, too, we were able to deal with the Impending Dooms, but this deck has infinite ways to deal with it. So it's not like we shouldn't be able to answer an Impending Doom. Yeah, that was just a brutal game for our opponent. Oops, no. 7-32. No, it's not one of those days. I've had those days. Usually when I'm drafting. So that was a good example of how this deck plays like more. It is really a control deck as opposed to a mid range deck because you are getting these awesome 2-for-1 deals out of your cards and really just grinding your opponent out. I mean, this is a grindy control deck that you should play like a control deck, not like a mid range deck. Whereas Stone Scar, you have to play like a mid range deck because your threats are so aggro. Yep, this hand's fine. Ooh, that's not bad. I like Temple Scribe on turn 2, followed by Iron on turn 3. Opponent had no follow-up play. Interesting. No problem. I was going to say, you really going to use a spell to save your Oni Ronin? You got to have better cards than that in there. This is great too because now on turn 3 we can leave up Iron or Banish. If we draw a Beckoning Lumen, we're going to be in very good shape. Although our opponent might have like a Torch. Do you have another opponent timeout? This might be a problem for Dire Wolf to look into. Let's go. No, maybe our opponent is choked. Maybe their whole hand is like nothing but 4s. Like, are we going to see an Impending Doom here? A Fire Maw. Okay. Well, we're going to play another Iron. And we are going to annihilate that. And then we're going to swing for 6. And we're going to make sure our draws don't flood us. We're going to get the Shadow Sigil. Always get to 6 Shadow Sigils first because the unblockable is just better. If you have a choice, go for the unblockable every time. Okie dokie. Oh man. Get banished. What is this big Stone Scar deck I'm seeing? 2 games in. This isn't the guy we just played, is it? No, it's not. Ah, there's the Impending Doom. You knew it was coming. We are gonna swing. Let's see. Is there? We could play Temple Scribe and try to draw removal, but that seems really unnecessary when we can just swing and then play Mystic Ascendant and draw a card that way. What else can we draw? We can also draw a Sandstorm Titan. That seems pretty good here. I guess we can save the Mystic. I don't know. I'd rather have the Mystic alive next turn to attack. Yeah. So we are going to do that. We really mad if that's a... No. Okay, great. Perfect. That's what we want. And now we're just racing. I mean, we're at 46, and our opponent's at 5 with an Impending Doom out. If they play like a Falchion on this, then that's a little bad, but we have lethal right here with just these 2. So our opponent really has to come up with something. Since our removal lined up extremely well against them with the Annihilate and the Banish. Sure, no problem. But see, now what does our opponent do? They can't even attack, and they're just taking damage. So, seems good for us. And we are just going to keep dropping threats. They're going to have a Death Strike here. But I don't think there's anything... Outside of Death Strike, there's nothing in these colors that can deal with this situation. Well, sometimes they have it. But even then, they're just going to die to their own Impending Doom, since they cannot attack. We're just going to activate. Yeah, we'll get that. Go ahead. Another Death Strike? Oh, wow. Well, that's not bad. No, they're just gonna... The jig is up, I guess. I knew you'd do well. And yeah, this is another game where the Xenan mid-range threats line up just better against other Xenan mid-range decks. I mean, with this deck and the last deck, you know, both strategies is to play like one card a turn, but the way that we get so much value out of ours, it's just better for us. Boom, 8-2, 8-2 with 2 free wins, especially one of them. So we'll play another one just to see. I don't want to get credit for 2 free wins. I'll take credit for 1, but we'll play again. If we win this game, we'll consider it 1.5 free games. We'll win or lose. It'll be 1.5, 1.5. So extra bonus game. Somebody must have posted some big Stone Scar deck. That used to be my favorite deck back in closed beta when Champion of Chaos was broken and got a health bonus as well and had a much better picture, I might add. And you had a Sparring Partner, which was an amazing mid-range card. Also just an amazing aggro card. That card was also kind of broken. But those Statuary Maiden mid-range decks were just, they were so good back in the day. This hand is not so good. What did I used to play? I used to play a lot of Combre. I guess I still do. I like Time a lot. I did play the Stone Scar mid-range deck quite a bit. It was very similar to this. It played like a control deck with units. Okay, we're going to do this. Since we're going first, we'll go a little slower and develop our mana. Oh, yes. Does anything feel better than playing the Vara's Favor on the Oni Ronin on the play? I just don't know. Ooh, here's a chance to get revenge on Rakano. We are gonna say go ahead. We're gonna try to hit with the Iron. I want to force my opponent to do something if they have anything, because I'd rather them use it to get rid of an Iron than a Sandstorm Titan or something better. Yep, and that. I guess we'll just play Titan. Don't really have a turn 5 play, so going Temple Scribe, Seek Power is better on 5, because that gives us a chance if we draw another Temple Scribe or a Vara's Favor that we could actually play another spell when we draw off of this. And for now, we'll just make our opponent have something. I mean, we don't have much of a choice here. Okay, that's fine. So we're just going to draw a bunch of mana, set up for our Mystic and our Champion, and see what we draw. And let's see here. Let's do this. All right, well, we will hit our curve. We're going to go ahead and swing. So our opponent could have a Torch, or they could have Finest Hour. But that being said, we get to trade with something, and I'm okay with that. Because we're going to start dropping 6-drops. Like if they did play a Finest Hour or Torch, I'd kill the bird, and then play my 2 big 6-drops on the ground. But it looks like our opponent is having a hard time coming up with something. Going for the Torch, I would assume. Yes, looks like it. That's fine. And then we'll play you. Sure. Yeah, even if our opponent had the Warhammer, I mean, we can race pretty well from... Oh my god. Yeah, I think we're just going to play 2 champions. We're not drawing any cards off Mystic, but we're also really trying to close this game out. Sure. That's pretty good. Boom. Let's go ahead and do this. And we're just going to go for it. Our opponent could have a protect, but I don't want to give them an extra draw to get one. Wow, they do have a protect. Oh, they have a torch. Okay. Boom. 9 and 2. Okay, see, now I don't feel so bad that we got 2 free wins, because we only got like 1.5. 1.5. Well, that was a good run. Very good run. We are now ranked 1,168, so whoever is 1,169 is probably really angry at that we just surpassed them. Probably. Probably. Let's get rid of that. Alrighty, quick closing deck tech, and then we will call it a video. So this deck is a control deck, just using units, because that's how you have to be with your decks in Eternal. You have to really make them unit-based. But I really, playing this deck really with control in mind, with controlling the board, not trying to close games out quickly, really trying to get lots of value for your units, and really trying to 2-for-1 your opponent and grind them out, and then suddenly turning the corner to finish them off is, I think, the way to play this deck. I don't know much to say. It's really well designed. I think Sir Rhino did a great job, or Sir Rhino and his team, whoever they are, did a great job identifying the key cards and really maximizing what this deck can do and maximizing the power of this deck. I personally do really like the Beckoning Lumen. I like the fact that you have a little more versatility in your curve and another way to draw cards. She was okay, in our run, but she was never bad. She was never awful. So I think that is an addition that if you like having a little more versatility and a little more low to the ground stuff, that's a good way to modify the deck. Otherwise, if you want to go more pure control, you can go back to Rhino's actual build, which is 4, 4, and 4. But I hope this video showed that you don't have to rely on this one type of engine, this one type of thing to really win. A great control deck has one style of play for the most part, which is control, turn the corner. But they have a lot of ways to do that, and you have a lot of options within your cards themselves. And so I think really being versatile in that is a good thing. And again, I say this a lot, but Direwolf has said that they want the 75 card deck size because they want games to play out differently. And that must be kept in mind when you build your deck and when you play, in that the more you try to force a deck or force a strategy or even force your draw on any given game to play the same way as last time, the actual design of the game is working against you. The design of the game is not so that you have, 60 cards and you're super consistent and it's all about finding the same line to victory every game. They have said they want you to have more variety in your top decks and more variables in your draws so you can play different types of games even with the same deck, which can be really frustrating if there's a particular strategy you like. I mean, that's why in Eternal, raw power is better than synergy, because the 75 cards makes it really, really hard to consistently hit a synergy. But in terms of decks like this, you have a lot of options when you play. You have a lot of opportunity to make a lot of decisions per game. And even though this deck is just units and spells, we had a lot of decisions to make and a lot of ways to play our games. So this deck, I think, takes advantage of that aspect of the game about having different lines and different draws and different styles. And it does so with very, very powerful cards. So I definitely recommend this deck. Props again to Sir Rhino and his team. I really enjoy playing it. I really enjoy the longer, grindier games. And, you get to do some really cool things. Every now and then you get to, this didn't happen in this video, but I wish it did. Every now and then you'll play against a time opponent and they'll have all these Dawnwalkers, and then you stray into Shadow and they just concede. It's beautiful. So, some other ways to modify this deck depend on the meta. If you see a lot more aggro, then you could put in Deadly Wasp. You can put in extra copies of I don't even remember. Let's go back. Let's go back. So for aggro, you're looking at things like no, not that. You can do more blistering wasp. I wouldn't do extra Vars choices. I have played Xenan Cupbearer. Not great. Do not recommend it. You can play Falchion if you really want. Not great, though. Not great. That Plague is very good. That's a good anti-aggro card if you want to go there. Extract, you could replace like the Death Strike with Extract if you're seeing a lot of aggro. You can play Suffocates and like Argentport Instigators. A lot of Shadow cards. Shadow can stop a board pretty well. Lumen Defender is another good one against aggro. And that's about it, I guess. This deck is pretty anti-aggro anyway. If you're facing more control decks, you can just go deeper on your win conditions. You could even play Ancient Lore is not terrible against something like a ramp deck because you'll have time to play it. And then if you're facing more Armory, that kind of stuff, you could play Argentport Instigator, which is really good against Armory. I mean, if they have the torch, they have the torch, but if they don't, then it trades really well for weapons because it's so low. It only costs 2, so you're always ahead on mana. So, like, for example, if you play the Instigator for 2, they have to use sort of a Caria to get rid of it, then you're up ahead on mana, that kind of stuff. Get rid of some of the Death Strikes. There's a lot of ways you can modify this type of deck to suit the meta. You can always run extra Stray into Shadows. If it's like really more mid-range. So I think try this deck out a lot if you like playing a more control style deck. And if you just like playing powerful units, definitely recommend it. And it's not that expensive either. I think it only runs the Sandstorm Titan and Mystic Ascendant as legendaries. Oh, and Ion as well. It's kind of expensive. I would say though that you don't have to play the Mystic Ascendant or the Sandstorm Titan if you don't want to bother with legendaries. Ion's pretty important. I think if you want to play this deck, you should craft this card first. But Titan and Infuser, Mystic, there are some other things you can do to generate advantage, but these are the best options. So it's a great deck. Highly recommend it. Thank you everyone for watching. It was a lot of fun, and I will see you next time, and I'll see you on the ladder. Oh, real quick, stop watching the video now if you don't want to get into the culture of gaming, but I do feel as a lifelong gamer and someone who has played Magic and left Magic, I want to give a quick comment on all the stuff that happened with the bullying and harassing over the weekend, if you were familiar with that. And the basic thing is Eternal is a new community. It's still kind of growing. It's still growing. It hasn't officially released. And I think everyone who is right-minded and thinks that gaming and social interaction is not about getting lots of attention. It's about community, and it's about what you bring, and it's about what you give each other, not what you take from each other. We should all make a point to be very wary of toxic content and toxic attitudes and identify them early. I think it's wrong to say things like, I don't want to call these people out. I don't want to call them by their name. I don't want to draw attention to them. I think Eternal is new enough that it is important if we see something as a community that is very bad, very toxic, to say this person, they have every right to say what they want to say, but there are consequences. And we want you to know that if you are going to associate with this view or this content, it's not the popular it's not the popular opinion, and you'll be more on the outside than inside. I think those are lines that we can establish early as a community, and we should. And so far, I think we've done a great job, which is hard to do for gaming and internet culture. So props to us. But we all know what kind of community we want, and we all know what happens when we're all positive as opposed to focusing so much on criticism and negativity. So let's go ahead and keep going with that. If Iliac ends up being the worst example of criticism in our community, that's no bad thing. Iliac, even though he rages deep, and he makes very, deep observations. So at least there's that. But again, let's this is a plea for us as a growing community to really identify that kind of behavior early and make sure that anyone who comes in our community is aware that we don't appreciate that. And again, you can say whatever you want. Everyone has freedom of speech, but there are consequences. We cannot say anything with no consequences. We should not be that kind of gaming community. So anyway, PSA over. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time here at Numot on the Eternal Grind.